Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Buffalo Roundup. It's made for the Buffalo by the Buffalo. I'm Cody Hills with Marty Zero and Drew Schultry. And guys, the busyness keeps rolling on. We are now very much deep into the basketball playoffs. More on that in a moment. More on that later in the week as well. Little teaser. But also the spring sports well underway. Everybody's firing on all cylinders here. It's a really fun time to be on campus.
Well, it was hot a week and a half ago. It's cold again now. Spring sports start up, and they're probably going, hey, where's that sun we spent 2 weeks practicing in?
Yeah. False spring, as we know it in the Midwest.
False spring,
it gets
indeed.
the best of us.
I think somebody was talking about they want to reach out to the groundhog, Puxatawny Phil, and ask him where the heck did their spring go?
Yeah, he's quite the meteorologist. I want to see his credentials. Busy episode here for you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about boys basketball, and then we got a little bit of a teaser for that as well. And then we're going to jump into some of those spring sports. We're going to chat about softball. Julie Woolard's bunch off to a really good start, 3-1 in her first 4 games as head coach here at VHS. Really impressive season opening tournament here as well in Middleton this past weekend. We're going to chat a little bit of wrestling. The Buffalo on their way to the regional tournament, getting set to do battle down in Palm Bay and try to advance some guys to the Silver Spurs Arena in Kissimmee. And then we'll have another rapid fire session because, like I said, there's so much going on. We want to try to get to everybody as much as we can. But yeah, all that and more in this edition of the Buffalo Roundup. And there's a reminder that as you wait for each new edition of the Buffalo Roundup, you can find all you need to know about the Village's high school sports at any time on our athletics website. We've got a digital home just for you, complete with scores, schedules, rosters, and other information such as ticketing and live stream broadcasts of Buffalo athletic programs right at your fingertips. Be sure to check us out online today at athletics.tvcs.org. All right, guys, so we are going to talk some boys basketball, but before we do, let's throw out the teaser, the appetizer. We're going to do something special for the folks, Marty. We're going to do a full episode previewing the Final Four of the Buffalo, obviously heading down to Lakeland. They'll actually be leaving today, I believe, heading down to the Lakeland area, going to stay just outside of there and get prepared for the Class 3A Final Four. The Buffalo back for the 3rd year in a row. We'll be playing down at George Jenkins Arena in the RP Funding Center in Lakeland. They'll be taking on Andrew Jackson in the state semifinal. It's a rematch of the state semifinal a year ago. There's a lot to talk about there. We will have a special episode debuting 10 a.m. on Friday for the folks. Marty, why are we doing that, first of all?
Well, last year we tried doing an episode after the state semifinal, and you and I sat in a hotel room in Lakeland recording that, and it was not a fun time.
Very somber.
Yeah, it was hard to remark on the season. So I think we need to give the people a recap of the season. We tell them fully about the regional final win over Tampa Catholic and give them a good preview of what we can expect to see on the state semifinal and potentially state final. It's not hard to read it's not hard to read what's probably going to happen in Lakeland on the other side of the 3A bracket. So really the semifinal to watch is the Villages versus Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, Marty alluding to nationally ranked, I think number 3 in the latest rankings, Calvary Christian on the other side of the bracket. That's neither here nor there. We'll talk to you more Friday morning. We'll have that special Final Four edition episode. We will briefly, though, touch on it because it is probably the number 1 hot button topic here, or at least in the athletics world at VHS. Let's briefly just touch on the regional final win. VHS, an 83-79 victory over Tampa Catholic to get back to that 3rd straight Final Four appearance in Lakeland. We talked about in last week's episode. It was a rematch similar to the one here coming up in the state semifinal. Buffalo getting the better of the Crusaders and Drew. A lot of it, I think, was written because of the really good start the Buffalo got off to this time around.
Yeah, well, a little bit of a bumpy start at the beginning of the first quarter, but ended the first quarter with the lead. And then it was really in the second quarter, they had one push where they got ahead by double digits. And then were never quite able to put Tampa Catholic away. But I think they built themselves enough of a cushion during that stretch of the game that they were able to just kind of hold off any pushes from the Crusaders. And we saw several times where it got within a couple of possessions, but just that one good run by the Buffalo was enough to allow them to get through the 32 minutes, 32 minutes without surrendering that lead at any point. So it was a good job by them to kind of hold off a really, really strong Crusaders team. And obviously they're headed to Lakeland and probably feeling like they're in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of that Final Four episode, so just one more talking point, and then we're going to leave it there for now. But Marty, I want to ask you, this is an interesting time for Colt McDowell, right, and this coaching staff, because you have a little bit of time, but you're already starting to think ahead. Practice schedule, you're going to try to get in some practice and shoot-arounds down in the Lakeland area. What do you think in terms of just the preparation? How different does it look? But then also, how much do you try to keep it the same as well heading into a Final Four like this?
Yeah, I think you don't want to vary too much your routine of the week. You want to keep that similar feeling where you practice leading up to it, easier practice the day before and a shoot around the day of. But it's going to be different. This being the 5th trip to Lakeland, the 3rd in 3 years. At this point, the Buffalo know what it takes to go down to Lakeland. Now they've just got to find a way to go to Lakeland and win 2 games in the RP Funding Center.
Easier said than done, but we're excited to see them try. Again, Buffalo taking on Andrew Jackson at 3 p.m. on Friday. You can get your tickets in advance now through the FHSA, or you can get down there as well the day of the game. They do charge for parking as well, so be prepared for that. Again, we'll have more on the Final Four matchup in that special episode. And Marty, why don't you tell the folks about that special episode?
Buffalo fans, make sure you tune in Friday morning at 10 a.m. as we will be bringing you a special state finals edition of the Buffalo Roundup podcast. That'll cover both the state semifinal and a potential state final matchup for the Buffalo. Get all the information you could possibly want on the state semifinal matchup as Cody Drew and myself offer our opinions of the path to the boys basketball team hoisting the first team state championship trophy in school history. Friday, 10 a.m. on our athletics website, athletics.tvcs.org, or the VHS Athletics YouTube page. Once again, the podcast will go up Friday at 10 a.m. The game is Friday at 3 p.m.
All right, guys, we're going to shift our attention a little bit to the softball diamond, because the early impressions and the early returns on Julie Woolard and her head coaching debut, first year as the Buffalo softball coach, have been good. VHS off to a 4-1 start officially through the first 5 games of the season. Picked up a win last night over Lake Weir in a rain-shortened victory, but it still counted nonetheless. Got through 4.5 innings. Buffalo picking up 8-1 victory there over the Hurricanes. That's coming off a really impressive opening weekend. The TVCS Kickoff Classic was held here. 3-day event to start the season this past Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Buffalo went 3-1, wins over Lecanto, DeLand, and Trinity Catholic. A really impressive win early in the tenure of Coach Woolard. So, guys, I just want to ask, first off, just your early impressions through the first 5 games that we've been able to see this Buffalo team. We'll get to see them again tonight, Tuesday night here, as we're recording this. Get another look at them, but so far, all things good. Green lights coming ahead for the Buffalo softball team.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of made an internal joke of why did they name it the Kickoff Classic for softball? There isn't a lot of kicking done. Apparently, it's because the Buffalo was going to come out and kick butt. One loss in that span against South Sumter, a district opponent, but you know what? They have to see them 2 more times this season at a minimum, and they might see them a 3rd in the district, I guess even a 4th if both teams end up matched up in the regional. And, it's not hard to beat a team once. It gets a little hard to beat them twice in a year. But when you start having to beat a team 3 or 4 times, that gets pretty difficult. So you could start seeing it flip. And it seems like every game there's just a little bit of progress. I think the thing I'm the most surprised and pleased about is everybody knows Emily Thompson's the ace. She's going to pitch a majority of the games for the Buffalo. But they have 2 other pitchers in both Haley Nobles and Madison Jennings that can step up and pitch and get them quality outs, quality innings. And, just the reduce of the strain on Emily Thompson throughout the season might actually be the storyline we're talking about here in a month and a half.
Yeah, Drew, let's talk about that a little bit, because Emily Thompson, of course, the ace of this Buffalo pitching staff, right? And again, 24 strikeouts through 12 1/3 innings already. As an 8th grader, she set the single season record for strikeouts, rewrote that record last year as a freshman. Through the first 2+ seasons, probably the best pitcher that this program's ever had. You kind of thought, as we said, that the strain, as Marty said, would be on her all season to take that ball, or at least the most critical spots. Well, along come Haley Nobles and Madison Jennings, and it looks like the Buffalo have not only maybe a second option, but maybe a 3rd as well in the pitcher circle.
Yeah, I think Nobles and Jennings both looked really good this weekend. Nobles, I was especially impressed with getting that tough start against South Sumter, who really, really solid team, but also a couple of really tough bats to get around in that lineup. And outside of one kind of tough inning where she got into a little bit of a jam, really limited that Raiders lineup. And then in that inning, had the bases loaded, got a grounder to third, and then it was a dropped ball on the tag that should have got her out of the inning. They end up giving up 4 runs in that frame. And if it's not for that, that's a really close game all the way through. So I think that, she was pretty fantastic, all things considered, in that one, outside of that one bumpy stretch. And again, early in the season, that was her first start ever for VHS. So, I mean, that's about as tough an assignment as you could ask for.
First start ever, one
area.
of the best opponents you're going to play all year. Second start ever, she comes out the next day and wins a game.
Yeah, so, I mean, she's, I think, off to a great start to this season. Definitely someone that Coach Willard can say, hey, I feel comfortable starting you in this game just to, whether it's to give Emily Thompson some rest or just because you want to get Haley Noble some work. I think at this point, you do have, at least based on what we've seen so far, two starters on the staff, and then Madison Jennings I thought was really good as well. I think that every inning that she's pitched has been solid. She's not throwing elite stuff just yet, but I mean, she's a middle schooler and she's giving you solid innings. So I think that you've got a legitimate 3-player pitching staff right now on this VHS team that's more depth than I certainly think we all believed we would have coming into this season.
Yeah, how would you feel as a batter? You've seen Haley Noble's pitch for 4 or 5 innings, then all of a sudden Julie Wooler goes, you know what, I'm going to switch things up. Let me put Emily Thompson in, and now you got to go down the stretch against her.
That's the other thing. I do kind of love the idea of in certain matchups where, maybe a game's a little bit close at the end, maybe Nobles has pitched well, but it's a little bit close at the end, 5-3 or something, and you decide, we're just going to throw Emily Thompson in as this high leverage closer.
Not only is she extremely good, but she's also a lefty, which you don't see a ton of at the high school level.
Yeah, so 2 righties, and then obviously Thompson is a lefty, and so just the ability that Coach Willard now has with the 3 of them pitching well to kind of mix and match. I mean, you could pitch all 3 of them just to, if you had a strong lineup and you don't want to go 3 times through the order on any of them, or even twice for one of them, you could go to all 3 pitchers in the same game, I think, and have a decent time. And then also the fact that Nobles can play third base, Emily Thompson can play in the field as well, gives you even a little bit more versatility in that you don't have to pinch to move one of them around and potentially move them to a different spot. So I definitely think that helps. And then the versatility throughout the batting order defensively gives you options to do that as well. So I think that Coach Willard has a lot of toys to play with in that lineup, a lot of options, and I think that she's done a good job of deploying them so far.
Yeah, and those 2 pitchers, Jennings and Nobles, combined for over 15 innings pitched already. There are 14 innings pitched already this season, just 2 earned runs between the 2 of them combined allowed. So they've actually pitched a little bit more than Thompson has, which all in all is a pretty good thing if those 2 can equal about the number of innings that Emily Thompson has, lower her workload a little bit. Buffalo softball team, also want to touch on this finally when talking about them, just how young they are. We talk about Julie Woolard and her first year as a head coach at the varsity level, and maybe there's some learning for her going on, but this entire team, 1 senior, 2 juniors, 6 sophomores, and then 4 middle schoolers, including Jennings. There's a lot of youth on this squad, a lot of inexperience. I can see it twofold. One, yes, okay, yeah, you can have some of the negatives, you can have some of the emotions, you can have some of the nerves, whatever. But also, too, I think sometimes being young, you don't really know any better. You don't know how big of a stage the varsity is or how good a particular team or pitcher is. I think we saw some of that against Trinity Catholic, which has been, for the lack of a better term, an area powerhouse the last few years. And this young ball club for the Buffalo didn't flinch, didn't blink, and maybe they're just naive in a sense because of how young they are. But it's going to be fun to watch this young team develop, isn't it?
There's a lot of confidence in them, too. You can see already they're developing that confidence inning by inning, really. They trailed Trinity Catholic by 1 run most of the game, and it wasn't until the 7th that they finally got their first hit. They got their first run on a throwing error, and, it's just one of those things where I said it on the broadcast Saturday. It's a pretty good amount of skill, but also a little bit of luck, and you find yourself winning games that people will think are stolen. But honestly, you just have to piece together wins at this point. You're a program that for the past few years have been up and down, up and down. I think the biggest thing for them is they just got to grow this year. Sure, they would love to make a run through the district and the region this year, but the real goal is get better so that 2 years from now, when all of those sophomores or seniors and your middle schoolers are sophomores and juniors, you can put together a team that threatens for a state title.
Yeah, you're talking about 10 underclassmen. You mentioned 6 sophomores and 4 middle schoolers. Aren't even in not even taken high school classes yet on this varsity roster, and they're pretty impressive, including the center fielder, Alexis Swetna, has made some terrific diving catches out in center field and batting up near the top of the lineup. But the Buffalo softball team, 4-1. We'll get another look at them here tonight, Tuesday night, against Denellen, and hopefully be 5-1 coming into the following week, and we'll have more on them as well in our next full edition of the Buffalo Roundup. And in the meantime, though, you can be sure to follow along with all the action and all of our teams through our VHS Buffalo social media channels. Be sure to check our Facebook page listed as VHS Buffalo Athletics. Our X account, formerly known as Twitter, can be found at Villages Buffalo, and we're always going to share photos, videos, and more on our Instagram at Villages Buffalo on there as well. As always, we thank you for your support and your following of VHS Athletics. All right, guys, this is going to be my segment, being the Iowa guy. We're going to talk some wrestling. I want you guys to jump in, though, of course. But the Buffalo wrestling team recently competed at the district tournament over there at Wekiwachi High School. Finished third overall in the team race, but the Buffalo qualifying 9 through to regionals, including a pair of district champions, Devin DJ Dunn at 126 pounds, winning the individual gold there at the district. And then Jonathan Clossy continuing his really impressive run. I guess we'll start there, guys. But Clossy breezing through the district tournament, now 48-0, the number one ranked wrestler at 175 pounds here in Class 1A going into the regionals. We each have got to see Jonathan Clossy throughout this season. I personally have not seen a more dominant high school wrestler, not only at this school, but probably in the Tri-County area. That's not a slight to the Jackson brothers who won state titles here, the first 2 individual state champions in 2013, Colton and Taylor. But I have not seen an individual wrestler as dominant in our immediate area than Jonathan Clossy. And I've seen a lot of wrestling. You guys as well have got to see him. Just how impressed have you been by the way he sort of just dismantled guys this year?
I just think you don't want to mess with that.
No.
You just don't want to mess with it.
And we can close the segment right there.
That's
It'd be
pretty much
fine.
it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's really not much else to say. You just don't want to mess with him. He's incredibly athletic. He's strong, but he's also smart. He knows he figures out what his opponent's weakness is. He gets upset at himself if he leaves himself open for attack, and he just closes all the gaps. Spent the first couple weeks wrestling up at 190, honestly, just because of lineup and roster issues within the wrestling program. Drops back down to 175. He was wrestling 190 at 175. He was not 190 pounds. Right. He was already at his weight. He was just wrestling up that weight to give somebody a slot at the 175. And now he's against 175 guys. He's just faster, stronger, smarter. And, it's one of those things that he's going to go down to Palm Bay to the region. And I don't know every wrestler in our region. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he's probably not going to see anybody until the final of that region that's really going to test him. And then when he inevitably qualifies for the state tournament at the Silver Spurs Arena in a week or two, he might be another state champion for the Buffalo. He definitely has the potential for it.
Yeah, Clossy was 2-time National Junior All-American, was ranked number 1 both as a sophomore and a junior in New York, finished just off, never did make a state final there, though. So certainly I think chip on the shoulder for him. They mentioned the Buffalo have 9 regional qualifiers. Also had some really good second-place runs as well throughout that tournament. Ethan Caudill, David Mooney, Jonathan Overstreet. I mean, there's a lot of potential here. I think it's not just Clossy and Dunn to watch out for heading to that state tournament. I think we could honestly see 3, 4, even 5 Buffalo advance through. Again, February 28th at Palm Bay. Did you want to pile onto the Jonathan Clossy talk, Drew? Because we could keep going, or we could just pin it right there.
What is there to add? Yeah, I was going to say, I think we need to talk about him about as long as one of his matches lasts, which is not very.
We've already probably eclipsed.
We're over it. Yeah.
Yeah, not many of his matches this year has seen the second period unless he wanted to see the second period, and I think we do we do need to talk a bit about Devin Dunn, the other district champion for his weight class. More of the guy that has spent his entire wrestling career, which spans back to middle school, building and building and building, and has earned himself a spot as one of the best wrestlers. Well, obviously the best wrestler in his weight class in our region or in our district. probably going to be one of the best in our region and hopefully makes a name for himself at the state tournament too.
Yeah, DJ Dunn's a guy that head coach Joe Cummings, also in his first year as the head coach with the Buffalo, and he's done a tremendous job. But Coach Cummings told me about DJ. He's just a guy that's starting to get it, and that's something that really takes. You can have a guy who gets technique down. You can have a guy who's physically gifted with the athleticism, but there becomes a point where just sort of you get it, and it becomes where you become more aware on the mat where you are in terms of space, in terms of score, timing, where you need to push the pace and the tempo a little bit and go for a takedown when you maybe need to just kind of sit on a lead and sort of preserve yourself for maybe later in the match. DJ Dunn has started to get it. He has got it. And that's why he won the district championship at 126 pounds. I think it's a very good bet that he goes down to the regionals as well. I haven't checked the brackets. He might be seeded 1 or 2 at 126 pounds. So a really good shot for DJ to get down there and make some noise as well. Again, the Buffalo will be down there February 28th, Friday, at Palm Bay for the regionals there. And check out our athletics website, athletics.tvcs.org, for the full recap once we get done with that there.
And you can make sure you'll be in attendance for any of our VHS home ticketed spring events with our partner GoFan, the official ticketing platform of the Buffalo. You can purchase annual and season passes or individual game and event tickets right there on your phone, tablet, or computer in minutes. Find us on GoFan today by visiting gofan.co, that's gofan.co, and typing The Villages into the search bar.
All right, guys, let's move on here and kind of rip through a few other sports here on campus. As I said, it's been a busy time, as it seemingly really is this time of year, that winter to spring crossover. Let's talk baseball first. Buffalo baseball team off to a 4-0 start, just as where we picked them up in last week's episode. They still haven't lost yet, still playing really good baseball. Really gave it to Lake Weir the other night, 15-0 in 4 innings. Marty, you sat in on that one for us. Seems like it was just much of the same. The Buffalo putting the ball in play, slapping it all over the yard, and getting good pitching too.
Well, went into that game knowing Lake Weir isn't the best team the Buffalo are going to face all season, likely going to score a lot of runs on them. The Lake Weir pitcher came up, got the first 2 outs. I was like, here we go. It's going to be one of those games similar to last year. The team had a few games where they should have been 15 runs better, and they just didn't play to that. They played down to their opponent. I was like, here we go again. It's going to be a 1-2-3 first inning, and we're going to sit through 6 innings of baseball, eventually win it, but sit through 6 innings of baseball that we don't need to play all of those. And then somehow, by some miracle, and I wish I could explain this to everybody, I wish I could recap every moment that happened, the Buffalo went on a tear and scored 9 runs with 2 outs in the first inning. It's the most amazing thing. Not only did they do that, of course they batted through the lineup, and Torrin Foley comes up, already leading the season on steals, and records 2 steals that inning, 5 total in the game. And he would have had a 6th if it hadn't been a throwing error to third base on his 6th steal attempt of the night. It's unbelievable, just that the professionalism we alluded to last week. I think that was the statement of it, is that we are no longer a team that's just here to have fun playing baseball. We're going to have fun, but we're going to do our jobs. We're going to make sure we take care of business on the diamond. And you know what? They might keep riding this wave. They might get all the way to March. They might take their trip to Tennessee, and they're going to play a state champion from last season up in Tennessee. And I think that test right there will tell them, are they ready to take care of what they need to take care of in the district? Are they ready to take care of what they need to take care of in the region and earn themselves the second trip to Fort Myers in team history?
Yeah, it should be fun to see them progress, as you mentioned. Last week, Devin Anderson, first-year head coach as well. A lot of new coaches having a lot of success here early on. Another new first-year head coach, well, at least not familiar. He's familiar to us at the school, but in a new sport, is Joe Hornstein, the new head coach of the boys tennis team. Drew, I'm going to turn to you. Both tennis teams off to a 4-0 start. Kelly Hill leading the girls squad. Really good participation numbers once again. There's a ton of interest generated in the girls tennis team here because of some of the success they've had. And now Joe Hornstein flipping over, who joked with me that tennis was his first love growing up, so now getting a chance. Of course, he's the bowling coach here, but now jumping over to the boys tennis team. They're off to a 4-0 start. The girls have lost one game all year. The boys have not really been all that pushed. All that, maybe one game was 5-2, one match was 5-2. But other than that, both tennis teams off to a really good start this spring.
Yeah, really like seeing, like you said, the participation numbers are way up, and that's from we're only a couple of years removed from a season where we almost didn't have a boys tennis program because the numbers were so down, had to pull some guys in just straight out of the cafeteria basically, which did end up leading to the first district championship for the boys in that program history. But yeah, the girls coming off of a season where they were losing a massive senior class who really from the time they were sophomores kind of carried that lineup, to go from that to all of a sudden having 12, 13, 14 girls out there practicing and, putting together another competitive lineup just a year later. It's really showing that these programs have gotten to a point where they're much more sustainable now. The growth that we've seen, it's obviously been several coaches who have worked with these programs over the years, but now we're getting to a point where it feels like they're kind of coming into their own. They're going to be perennial contenders for the district on both sides, I think. I would love to see the boys go for a second district title this year, and I think with the depth that they have a better shot at doing that. And so I just think that both programs are in a much better place right now, and that's a credit both to the coaches that have worked with those programs and then Coach Hill and Coach Hornstein who are leading the way for them right now.
I think some of it has to do, they did a lot of their growing playing at off-campus venues. Now they're on campus, and you just kind of see it attracts people. It attracts the kids. They want to come out and play this sport.
And then finally, it would be remiss not to mention the boys weightlifting team finished second recently at the Lakeland Sumter Invitational for the traditional discipline, finishing second there in a loaded field. And the Buffalo also picked up a head-to-head Olympic-style victory over Citrus recently. They'll be back in action tomorrow at Lecanto, Jason Poplowski's bunch. And shout out to Malik Williams, a Buffalo football player, but now just received and committed to Lindenwood University for weightlifting there. So congratulations, Malik. Keep throwing that weight around. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this edition.
I think we should tease one more thing.
Go ahead.
We've been avoiding one spring sport, haven't talked a lot about it, and that's flag football. Reason behind it, it's probably going to end up being about a half dozen girls that played soccer and basketball whose season ended after flag football started. We've heard this week is the week those girls are going to be fully reintroduced to the team. They're probably going to start seeing some playing time this week. So next week, on the regular edition of this podcast, not the special edition for basketball, but the regular edition next week, we're going to do a full deep dive into the start of the flag football team.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with a win over Crystal River, by the way. Flag football did get a season opening win, so they're underway. Yep.
And they'll have, as Marty mentioned, Zion McCray, Michaela Cruz, Amaya Flowers, Herva Brutus, several of those basketball superstars who just finished off a regional run. They'll be joining the team. I think they got out there yesterday and started practicing for the first time. So we'll chat about them and all the other sports in the next edition. Again, we have that special Final Four preview edition of the Buffalo Roundup coming to you at Friday at 10 a.m. Be sure to check out our social media channels or the VHS Buffalo Athletics YouTube page for the release on that. Again, Friday, Buffalo basketball team playing in the Final Four, 3 p.m. Against Andrew Jackson. We'll have more on that in Friday's special Final Four edition. Until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, whatever you've chosen to do here with us. Always, we appreciate your support here on the Buffalo Roundup. For Drew Schultry, for Marty Zero, I'm Cody Hills. Say the thing, guys.
Go Buffalo.